Hey guys, welcome to my monthly catch-up video for the month of March. Now, as you guys know, I see a lot of movies. Sometimes I just don't get the chance to review all of them because these videos, they take up a lot of time and it would just take up so much more time if I did a video on every single one of these. I'm not a master of film editing yet, so maybe somewhere down the line I'll be able to do reviews for everything I see, but as stands, I'm still going to do this format just to briefly touch upon all the films I've seen throughout each month. So, with all that said, let's get started. Red Sparrow was a very boring film that not even Jennifer Lawrence naked could save. It was just dull and boring and very slow paced. Now, I like a good slow paced film, but it just doesn't work here. And at the end of the day, I never really want to see this film again. It was just really dull, and honestly, I don't have that much more to say on it. And that's why Red Sparrow gets a 5 out of 10. Death Wish is the best Eli Roth film ever made, but that's not saying much because all his films are bad and he's just a bad director. But there is some fun to be had in this film. I can understand why people might hate it, I understand, but I did find some enjoyment in it. Bruce Willis gives a very good performance for the most part, and that's what got me through the film. And that's why Death Wish gets a 4 out of 10. Strangers Pray at Night is the sequel to The Strangers, and I've never seen the original, so I'll say nothing about that here. But the film does have a good atmosphere to it. It's got good cinematography, good use of music. However, it's just bland and unoriginal. But it does have some scary moments to it that I did enjoy. It's just not very good, and just even the trailers for the first one look better than what this film ultimately was. And that's why Strangers Pray at Night gets a 5 out of 10. Oh my gosh, I actually forgot I saw this film. Hurricane Heist. It was bad. Um I can't really remember much about it. I guess it was either that bad or that forgettable. Next. And that's why Hurricane Heist gets a 3 out of 10. The Vanishing of Sydney Hall is a mystery that just isn't that interesting. And it's a real shame because there's a lot of good talent in this film. However, the talent is very good. The characters, they feel real. However, it's just how the film is constructed. It's very almost amateur and it's just not as interesting as it should be. I still enjoyed the film, but I'm probably never going to see it again. And that's why The Vanishing of Sydney Hall gets a 5 out of 10. I Can Only Imagine is one of the best religious films ever made. It's not filled with any hate or anything of that sort. It's just a pretty generic film. It's a story you've seen before. However, Dennis Quaid strangely gives one of the best performances I've seen from him in a couple years. He's very good in this film, and he's why this film gets the rating it does, because he's just that good. And that's why I Can Only Imagine gets a 6 out of 10. I hate that I didn't get to review this film. I had the footage ready, but something happened to it, and I just hate that I couldn't do it. This film is just so sweet and so endearing and so good, with just great acting from everybody and a great love story that's just really, really sweet. And this is probably one of the best films I've seen this year, maybe even my favorite. And it's still out, so I say go out and see this. It's really good. And that's why Love, Simon gets an 8 out of 10. The Outsider is a Netflix movie that stars Jared Leto, and it was just very dull. It was about the Yakuza in Japan, but it's just generic and bland, almost amateur in its filmmaking. It felt more like a TV movie than an actual movie, and its violence is gratifying and cool to look at, but there's just not that much substance there for me to really care. I got really bored in it. And that's why The Outsider gets a 4 out of 10. Yes, I saw Benji, the new Netflix film, and it was just another dog movie. I mean, dog movies are a dime a dozen. They're basically the same thing always. So I can't really be too hard on these films. They are what they are, and Benji is exactly that. It's just another dog movie. And that's why Benji gets a 6 out of 10. Take Your Pills is actually a really interesting documentary about the use of Adderall in our society and how teens have been using it. I'm not exactly sure on all the statistics it uses. I've seen the reviews for it. It's got some mixed reception, but I found this very informative and interesting, and I really enjoyed it for what it was. And that's why Take Your Pills gets a 7 out of 10. Sherlock Holmes is a film that just shouldn't exist, and I don't know why it exists. It's the sequel to Romeo and Juliet, and that's all I can say. There it is. It's bad, it's just embarrassing, and just don't see it. It's one of the worst films of the year. So, yeah, there. I've seen one of the worst films of the year. Yay me. And that's why Sherlock Holmes gets a 2 out of 10. Game Over Man started out really bad, but it was actually kind of fun as the movie went along. It has a dark sense of humor that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but it has some dumb but also kind of likable leads. It's got some comedy that works and doesn't. It's still not that good, but it does remind me of if Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 was better than it was. Not good, but better. And that's why Game Over Man gets a 5 out of 10. And the last film that I've got is God's Not Dead, A Light in the Darkness, the best of the God's Not Dead trilogy, and it's actually kind of great to see that this film isn't hateful at all. They got rid of the director from the first one, they got rid of the writers, and they have a director and writer this time that seems actually focused on telling something that's not hateful and more uplifting. However, it's still not good. But David A.R. White is a better lead in this film than the other two leads from the first two films, and I can say that. It's also got an actor from Sex and the City, I can't remember his name. He's really good in the film, but the film's bad, guys. It's not saying much that it's the best. It's still bad.
And that's why God's Not Dead, A Light in the Darkness gets a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, guys, I know, not much of an uplifting list, but that's what you get when you see movies in January through March. There's a lot of mediocre movies, a lot of bad movies, but there are some good movies, as you saw throughout my list, and yay for them. So, anyway, guys, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next review. Bye.